This is the home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. It seems there's some mainstream podcasters out there, namely Crain Co and Josh Pate, that may think that the Oklahoma fans and the Texas fans are not quite as ready for the SEC as they think they are. And on the flip side of that, they also pointed out that maybe some of these SEC teams in the middle of the road may be a little overconfident going into all this. But before we get to all that, I'd like to give you my 4 horsemen shout-outs, and they go as follows. Billy Townsend, Storm 4601, That Christian Fam Channel, and Richard Burton for Saddled Up and Mounted Up and Ready to Go. And they're going to help us with today's college football invasion. And if you want your badge and you want to get deputized and get your random 4 horsemen shout-out like they just did, all you got to do is hit that join button next to the subscribe button. It's not $2.99 a month. That's just 75 cents a week. That's just a half a bottle of water for the outlaw. And you'll also be eligible for the comment of the day, which will come later in the show. Now, let's talk about it. Here they come riding in once again. It's the Outlaw Posse now in effect. And before we get to this clip, like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. That's the big 4, and they're all free, especially subscriptions. They get this party crunk. Now, let's get to that clip and see what all the fuss is about. Here we go.
When I hear some Texas and Oklahoma fans say, man, we're going to go in here, we just got to be able to beat Alabama, or we just got to be able to beat Georgia. To me, that is the biggest misconception of what the SEC truly is. And you can ask any coach this that has coached there, including Steve Sarkisian, who is at Texas right now. It's not having to just beat the best team, the Alabamas and the Georgias, who have some of the best rosters in the country. It's then you got to go play at Kentucky. They've got their fair share. They could beat you on any given day. Then you got to go play Ole Miss at home. It's the teams on the periphery outside of just the top. That's why I tell Texas fans, just you need to see it first. Because, again, what did Mike Tyson say? Everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the face. And Texas beat Alabama last year. Just when you look at Texas and Oklahoma, where are you on their ability to blend year one? I know they're in different spots roster-wise. I'm not asking you to say they're going to be even. But kind of how do you see it?
It's twofold. I think there's a lot of hubris and a lot of maybe unreasonable expectation on both sides. On the Texas OU side, you're right. Everybody understands the challenge when you go to Athens.
And that was the clip that I got off the Crain Company. I couldn't put any more on here because they might demonetize my video because you know how they are. But from what I unpackaged from that, and Josh Pate goes on to elaborate and say that, hey, it's twofold. It ain't just Texas and Oklahoma fans that are being unrealistic or not ready for what they're about to get into, although they're probably not quite as ready as they think they are, in my opinion. They're still going to compete at a high level, regardless of what the other middle-of-the-road SEC teams thinks. What they're really alluding to, I think, especially with Crain, is that the fact that, some of these road games in the past that have been a little bit easier for Texas and Oklahoma, like going to Baylor or something. No slight at Baylor, not trying to piss y'all off, but going to Waco is not near the same as going to an Ole Miss or even a Mississippi State. Now, Vanderbilt, teams at the bottom of the conference, Baylor may be able to contend with them as far as rabid fan base and that kind of deal. But for the most part, Baylor, road trips like Baylor and going to Kansas and places like that, it's going to be a bit of a culture shock, so to speak, I would think. But I don't think that Texas and Oklahoma are going to take as much a back seat as some of the middle-of-the-road teams think. Like they pointed out with South Carolina and teams like Kentucky and even a little further up, maybe even the Floridas of the world and Tennessee's. Ole Miss, same thing. Yes, I know Ole Miss is doing really well right now. For the most part, though, Ole Miss is the middle-of-the-road team. And like they pointed out, Texas and Oklahoma is going to be in the league this year regardless. So they're going to find their place on the bus. That's the analogy used. They're going to find their seat on the bus. And someone's going to move. Because I can tell you this, Texas and Oklahoma are not going to be at the bottom of the SEC, in my opinion. If they do, for some reason, finish at the bottom of the SEC, it will be a surprise to me and most everybody else out there, whether they want to admit it or not. What I think it comes down to, I think both sides, the Texas and Oklahoma fan side and the SEC side, is both parties are going to be right to some degree. Texas and Oklahoma are going to come in and beat a few teams that maybe you don't expect them to beat. And they might lose to a few teams that you don't expect them to lose to on the Texas and Oklahoma side of things. I think they'll come in and compete at a high level the first year. Texas will, because they're pretty loaded. Oklahoma will probably compete at a higher level than most people are giving them credit for. What these people don't realize and what they're not doing their history on, even Crain Co and Josh Pate, who are very knowledgeable guys, if they do their history, though, like the Common Joes and the Common Sallies do, like myself, we know the history of college football, and we've seen it unfold over the past 50 to 60 years. And what they don't realize is Texas and Oklahoma is a little bit different animal than what they've seen in the past. If you're going on Arkansas and South Carolina entering in 92 and Texas A&M and Missouri entering in 2012, you're going to be vastly disappointed in the results for your team, because I think Texas and Oklahoma are going to do a lot better than those two teams. Although Missouri did come in and make it to the SEC title game twice. People tend to forget that. But those four teams that were added before Texas and Oklahoma were not true blue bloods. Texas and Oklahoma are true blue bloods that are going to come in, and it may be a little bit of a learning curve for them as far as some of the road trips, but they will assimilate because they've always been able to assimilate, just like the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world have been able to assimilate. They will assimilate, and eventually they will become perennial top 4, top 5 in the SEC, in my opinion, because they're blue bloods. They've got multiple national championships between them. I think 10 or 11 between the two. So Texas A&M and Missouri and Arkansas and South Carolina didn't have that kind of portfolio coming in. So in the end, I think that those middle-of-the-road SEC teams better not get too gleefully spastic about having someone else to teach a lesson to, because Texas and Oklahoma is not going to roll over like that. And like I said, Missouri come in and went to the conference title game 2 years in a row, so if Missouri can do it, I know Texas and Oklahoma will be able to do it. Now, back on the flip side, Texas and Oklahoma fans, don't get mad if you beat Alabama and Georgia, like Crain alluded to, and then the next week you lose to a middle-of-the-road team like an Ole Miss or a South Carolina, because the drop-off's not that much. They just happen to be in a conference where they can't make it to the top tier because the conference is so well-balanced and tough. And I know people don't like me saying that shit. And they're like, oh, your bottom half is going 5-7 too. Yeah, but if there was a 5-7 Mississippi State team that was put in the Big Ten, I would gainer to say they wouldn't go 5-7. They'd go about at least 8-4, 9-3. But I think everybody just needs to calm their feathers. It's a new learning process for both sides, and I think everybody's going to compete just fine. And like Josh alluded to, I think there's going to be some programs that's going to end up getting pushed down, and they're not going to be too happy about it. Now, let's get to the comment of the day. The comment of the day goes to Big Cojones Kelly, a.k.a. Ryan Thibodeau. He says, I don't agree with Caitlin Clark quitting the WNBA going overseas to play. Although she may do both, she is marketable and brings a whole new set of eyes to the once dead league. Exactly. I have said since the 2022 Women's College Basketball National Championship game that CC and Angel should be marketed as the new Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson. And that is our comment of the day. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as I said before, if you want to get your badge and get deputized and be in the Outlaw Posse, it's not but $2.99 a month. That's just 75 cents a week. You get your badge, you get your random 4 horseman shout, as well as possibly be the comment of the day, as Big Cojones Kelly just was. And with that, I'm out of here. KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.